hello there. Tony McCall here, McCall to Talk podcast. And I'm here today at Newport Pagnell Town FC to see their derby FA Vase game against MK Irish. I saw MK Irish a little while back. Keeper was terrific, kept them in, believe it or not, because they won 8-0, but he made some terrific saves actually at the very start of that game. To his feet and 1v1s, he was brilliant. So no coincidence, I think, that they're unbeaten in their league, although on the back of 2, I believe, cup defeats, and so they're going to look to sort of get themselves back to winning ways before they go back into the league. And there was another lad, Mason Spence, for them, and George Shreves actually stood out a lot for me in that game. So it'll be interesting to see them again, to see if they can put up performances sort of back to back. And don't really know that much about Newport Pagnell Town. Actually, they, apart from being in many years ago, actually was after I had a very serious head injury at Leighton, and the Leighton team were playing here, and I had to come here to convince the lads that I was alive, because I think they were quite horrified by what they saw that day, and of course I knew nothing about it. So we'll see what we've got today. I think both attract sort of good crowds and love these kind of cup games. At the end of the day, there's a huge carrot at the end of it, with a obviously trip to Wembley, which Newport Pagnell have experienced twice and won it once. So they'll be looking to build on that and make it a hat-trick. And I guess this week, I'm just going to head into the ground now, but wanted to mention about, my just very quick thoughts on the England manager, Thomas Tuchel. I hope he does well. But I couldn't help feeling, a sense of like typical FA. I don't know, I'm not the sort of massive fan of them. I don't think they're a fan of me either, because over the years I said what was on my mind. And I was thinking, obviously Gareth Southgate, lovely guy, I've met him before, really nice fellow when he was at Middlesbrough. But, you felt in games we just didn't take a risk or go for it. And I know a lot of people made jokes about that, but stuck to their guns. A bit of a cliche in football, especially in pro football at the minute, about, well, we'll just keep playing our way, and that frustrates me a bit. And I sort of think, well, that's pretty much what the FA have promoted and done all through. I mean, I don't even know how many courses I've been on over the years and in service days, but it's definitely what they promoted. And lo and behold, of what is there, 12,000 UEFA A and B coaches. There's 50 odd English managers in the Football League and above, 3 English managers in the Premier League, which is quite scary. So not really believed in, obviously, with the Premier League, and for all of those numbers, you can't find someone that is English or of that heritage, even British, brought up in this game. Obviously Scottish, Irish, Welsh, there's lots. I think there's 90 odd, if you include British managers, there's 90 odd, something like that, across the Football League and above, and that do understand. Actually, I feel that you have to adapt in games. There isn't one way of playing a football match. And I leave you, before I go inside, with this quick story. We was on one of the many in-service days. I was actually at Queen's Park Rangers. By then I'd had, believe it or not, I was in my 30s and had the terrific knee surgery finally, where I could join back in football and things, in my 30s. And so I used to enjoy, sort of, when they get asked for volunteers to join in coaching, I was quite prepared to do that, quite enjoyed it. And coaches will know this, that sometimes you set a scene. And actually, they created the pitch, and this was an in-service day from the FA. So this is one of their lead coaches. Maybe I'll leave his name off, but typical FA. So they create a pitch which is like an egg timer. So it's thinner in the middle and wider at each end. So defensive areas are wider, midfield very narrow, and the scenario is you're in a cup game. So it's like today. It's a cup game and you're 2-1 down. You're losing. So my team, and I look over and I said, "What, my team?" And he says, "Yeah." And not surprisingly, typically I'm one of the 2 defenders in the defending third. And off you go, play. Now I go into competitive mode. I want to get this game back. So of course they want you playing through the thirds in, normal play, and the midfield players, again, in development, I get it, because you're teaching them to be able to play under pressure, be comfortable with players tight to them, all of that stuff. But you've set a scenario now, a scene, that we're getting beat. It's the FA Cup. We're 2-1 down. And what I did, as the clock rode on and he shouted out 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. And I got the ball in the left-back area, and those that know me will laugh and go, yeah, not surprised. But I did see in the attacking third, it was actually my coach that was with me every day coaching, and I saw him on the back stick, and I thought, if I could just clip that over that defender, he's in. So I did. So I missed out the middle, and I hit a long pass, I would say. A long ball, in my opinion, is one that can't, you're just hopelessly kind of clearing it, or is a kind of emergency defending, those kind of things. This was most definitely a pass. I was not bad at that. So I hit the ball up in the air, and it cleared the centre-back, and in slow motion, my word, Dean, his name is, he absolutely clocked it, full volley like David Platt, and wellied it. And it hit the outside of the post. Oh, gosh, so close. You can imagine if that was in a stadium, all the crowd would be like, oh, we scored. Oh, that was so close. Well, so we nearly did it with that anyway. So when you do your debrief, this FA coach says, why did you do that? And I said, well, because we were losing and want to do something different to try and win. We'd been playing through the thirds. It kept coming back. We kept not getting through, and we never created one chance doing that. And the whistle's going to go. And he basically levered me for it. This is typical England. This is and me being me, I wasn't having it. And I argued with him. I said, no, I disagree with that. I think, why then in cup games do managers send the centre halves up to play up front? You all play this lovely football. We can all do it. We all know, and we all know what you're doing. But ultimately, in that moment of your going out of a tournament, your risk values goes up, risk v reward, and there's like nothing to lose. You could concede another goal, but it's the same as 1 goal down, 2 goal, 3 goal. That doesn't matter. You're going out. So what's the difference? So you may as well take the risk. And in some cases, as we all know, you send goalkeepers up for set pieces, corners. Yes, they could break away and score, but who cares? At least you had a go. Well, he lambasted me for that. He said, no, not having it. It's typical England. And kind of like, maybe I get labelled, as I always did in that world, well, you're a firebrand because you basically disagreeing. Well, in any business, in any academic world, being challenged and being questioned is the right thing. And you have a good debate about something. He wouldn't have it. So much so, after that, walking out of the ground, we'd all gone off and what have you, he wouldn't look at me. I said bye to him, and he completely blanked me. So now I'm the devil. Completely blanked me. I don't know whether he thought I had him up, or I was supposed to just nod my head and accept it, and I would not accept it. It's every level of every game I've ever seen in my life. That's what managers would do. They would change, surely. And you know what? And after that, he came back a lot because he was friends with what became the academy manager there. He would say hello literally to everyone around me, and he would ignore me, wouldn't speak to me. And I just, petty, and I just thought, what a baby, just because someone has a different opinion. So anyway, let it go. But do you know what? When I watched England later on in like the tournaments and knockout tournaments, I always thought about that, because I thought, that's the same. They just keep doing the same thing, and they won't. And there you go. And then here we are. I think you've got an England manager that kind of fitted that same profile. Probably that day wouldn't have got told off. And now you've gone to a guy that actually probably is higher risk and would do things and probably anything. And you see him on the touchline. He's very emotional and love all that. Personally, I think, he probably will do anything to win. So they've gone with that profile, which is great. But why did you teach all the English guys then, and all the people all through your courses? In all courses, you've got FA courses, your coaching badges, your youth modules, your obviously all the medical stuff, the necessary things. all these different talent ID, all these kind of money, in my opinion, make a lot of money. For one individual, I know I calculated it was about £28,000 one person. Well, there's probably over 12,000 UEFA A and B coaches in this country alone, and we pay them more than anybody else for the privilege. And yet, you teach them all of that, and then you go to an overseas manager that actually, in my opinion, would have done what I did that day. Anyway, what do I know? That's why I'm alienated from football. Don't speak up, whatever you do. So, what we'll do now is I'm going to get in the ground, see who I can find. I'm pretty certain we're going to see a proper good ding-dong here today. And, proper good game. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll be back to let you know what happens soon. Good. Right, I just managed to grab a couple of guys here before they go in for first team duty. I've got Cam here and Aaron. So, gents, you were previously with the development squad, right?
Yeah, that's right. Myself and Cam have been doing that for nearly 3 years, a couple of weeks short of that. So, about 100 games. Fairly successful. Blooded a lot of young players, many from 16. Average age of the squad's been about 18, 19.
Love that, by the way.
And we're a big believer in that pathway from youth football straight into senior football. So the earlier we can grab them, as long as they're good enough, we're happy to give them their chance. And it's I think we've been fairly successful at doing that.
Well, Aaron, my whole DNA, if you like, my whole background is around youth football, from grassroots to professional, and always giving young people a chance. I did it myself at Dunstable Town. We were skint, we had no money. We literally took lads from the development squad, typically 7 or 8 a week, played in that group, and 5 went on to the pro game. So you're talking to someone here that is absolutely behind giving young people a chance, but it seems like we was in a desperate situation. But as a club, maybe you've been along that journey for some time, maybe? Has that been an ethos of the club, perhaps?
Possibly that thing started to change when myself and Cam got hold of that team. I don't think it was quite there before that, but we've been fairly lucky with the talent available to us as they've progressed through the age groups and then become available age-wise for senior football. So it's been a good time in that respect. But myself and Cam, that's big driver in and a big reason why we do what we do, really. Great.
And so, Cam, you got a derby, which is I've seen Milton Keynes Irish myself this year. I think when they're firing, they're anyway, they're a good team. I've mentioned 3 players in there already that I know of that are particularly good. Actually, the goalkeeper, by the way. I mean, it's an obvious thing to say, but 1v1s and things like that, he's tremendous. To get any goals against him, you've got to work hard. So, I mean, what's your kind of approach for today, or what's your hopes for today? Because obviously there's a massive prize at the end of it.
Look, any game of football you can win, you can turn up. We know MK Irish are a very, very good side. They're literally one of the best informed Step 5 teams in the country at the moment. But anything can happen on a derby day. We know their players quite well. We know Terry Shreves quite well. He's manager down here for years and years when I was coming through the youth system, and obviously trying to break into reserves when I played. So they're going to be a very good side. We're not naive. We know that potentially we're going into the game as underdogs, and that's very rare to happen for Newport Football Club over the last 2 years. So we're very excited with the opportunity. The lads are going to be thriving off it. The atmosphere is going to be exceptional. But yeah, we know Irish are a great side. We know a fair few of their players. A lot of them have been at Newport. Again, JJ Meadows, great strong lad. Had a chance here, but got better chances at MK Irish. So we know their strengths. We know what they're going to try and do today. So yeah, excited for the occasion.
Love it. Well, chaps, I wish you the very best. I mean, the atmosphere should be good, as you say. These are games I do miss when I see games like this. You know, they're fantastic days, good for the club, good to stick a few quid in the coffers, and hopefully you get through to the next round. So wishing you all the best, lads. Good luck.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Thanks for that, mate.
I'll let you two get on. I'm going to find out what's up.
Right, I'm Ian, isn't it? Ian. So I'm here with Ian, pitch side, and well, first of all, the sun's come out, Ian. That's a right result in it, because
I did arrange that for you.
Did you? Oh, thank you very much, mate. Because it actually, starting to look really lovely here. Sun's out. It was absolutely torrential rain when I was driving up here, but Ian, thanks for being so welcoming, first of all, because so far everyone at the club since I've walked in the gate has been really lovely, and they really want to tell their story and things, and that's always good. So first of all, maybe if you could tell us a little bit about your role here, Ian, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, sure. My name's Ian Ford. I'm the chairman of the CASC, so the Community Amateur Sports Club, which is the company that looks after all of the Willing Road sports ground, including the cricket, the football, the youth teams and the senior team, NPTFC. So.
Brilliant. And we were saying, so first of all, I mean, you had this famous run as a football club in terms of the Wembley, back-to-back Wembley visits, and I remember watching it on the telly. You had a huge following, so I presume they've all stuck with you, and there's going to be 4,000 fans here to support you. But joking aside, it's tough, isn't it? It's tough to keep fans and to keep them coming, and that's probably the biggest challenge in non-league, I guess, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we'd like to see them 4,000 in here today. I've got a feeling some of them might be a little bit further down the M1 for the local derby that's happening between Luton and Watford today. But it was amazing. If you think back to the first FA Vase game, we have a population of 17,500 in the town. We took 7,500 to Wembley. So there clearly is a passion for football in the town. It's about, I think, us now at this ground playing at a high enough level with attractive enough football to keep those people coming through the gate. When you look at our gates though, if you look 2, 3, 4 years ago before the Vase run, we were getting 100, 110, 120 through the gate. We're at kind of 230, 240 now, so some of them have stayed, but unfortunately in their tens, not in their hundreds.
But I mean, for step 5, 230, 240, 250 is still very respectable. I mean, that's tremendous, really. It shows that there's definitely an appetite locally for this level of football, but their local town, I guess.
100%. And when you think also, I mean, the club itself is huge. We've got 540 youth players registered at the club across boys and girls, across multiple. That's not going to help, is it?
No, we'll pretend that's not happening. I'll turn the mic down and stick it closer to you.
Okay. We've got 540 youth players registered at the club across the both boys and girls football, multiple age groups from under 6s right the way up through to under 18s, 37 teams in the youth section and 6 adult teams. So when you think about it, that's like 600 players and about 1,200 parents and relatives all associated as members to the club. So even if you exclude just the residents of the town and just talk about people that are members of the club, it's a huge club. And if you could get 50% of those coming to every home game, you're looking at 600-700. So the potential's there.
And without putting you on the spot too much, Ian, I know, because it's passionate to me, and it's the reason why I do this podcast, is actually I've got a long history in development of young players, and when I was in non-league as a manager as well, it was something that was really important to me. And when I stepped out of the pro game to do it, it was actually the challenge of that club had no money, and we literally had to look at their development squad, which was the only thing that existed, and bring these boys into a very, very high level of football. And I think, I guess the challenge, I think, for a lot of non-league clubs still today are two things. One is the drop-off of young players. And I put that down to, I worked in pro football for many years, is the defining why you play, because they get taken out to development centres and academies, and somehow when it doesn't quite work out, they kind of end up back here at clubs like this, and a lot of them stop playing, and it sort of the motivation goes, and I see that a lot. Do you see any of that kind of thing with the youngsters, Ian?
Well, listen, that's why I got involved in football 20 years ago, because what I saw was at this club and other clubs, the boys and girls that go up through the age groups, they get to 15, 16, 17, they then go and sign for Rushden and Diamonds or Kettering Town or Bedford Town, because they're playing at a higher level and they can get an extra 10 or 20 quid. So the youth that were investing all that time in over the years end up not staying here and moving on to other clubs because they're playing up one level or they're paying an extra few quid. And then you end up having to pay out hard-earned money at the football club. The football club's run on volunteers, right? Yeah. So you ended up having to pay out hard-earned money to bring people in from outside the area. That's not a model that I support and not a model that I think will work. I think if you can retain the youth players that have grown up at the club, they're local lads, which generates local support. because the local fans like to come and watch local people. So that's one of the reasons I got involved in coaching, did my coaching badges myself, worked with the youth teams to try and make sure we created a genuine pathway from the under-6s to the under-18s, into development team, into senior football, to try and make sure we've got that genuine pathway to keep the players here at the club. And that's also why I think one of the decisions we've made this week is a really, really significant decision. Our manager moved on Wednesday for the first team, and we've replaced him not with a well-known name, not with someone from this level or from us a higher level to try and chase points and chase promotion. We've replaced him with our development team manager. And what will happen is the development team manager now will be looking into the youth section, looking into his development team and trying to pull those players forward. And that's not about finances. Obviously, we can support a player budget here. We've had a couple of really successful seasons at Wembley. We've generated some good, decent funds for the club, and we're getting through the gate 230, 240, 250 people. We've got a very successful tea-hot operation and bar. So financially we could support a decent player budget, but I would rather we grow our own talent, our home talent, and that's going to also attract local support for local boys playing in a local football team.
Well, I absolutely love that. It's everything I'm about. I'm so glad to hear it. Of course, I've been around pretty much most of the non-league clubs in the region, and again, being around Step 3, you don't see it a lot. And if I go back to even myself being around many years ago in the South Midlands League, there was kind of like, with a group of the lads playing, there was like a camaraderie because they all got on, they knew each other, they were playing together a long time. And I know it's tough because everyone thinks it's like the Premier League, right? Everyone's going to get the sack in 6 weeks. So they get desperate and they throw money at budget in desperation. And it's really refreshing to hear a club say, yeah, it is important because you do need to get up the leagues. We accept that. But for the long term and the foundation of the club and the sustainability, we must give our young players a chance, right? That's got to be the case. And I love that.
100%, and at social football and at local football. You talk about academy footballers leaving the game, going off to these bigger clubs and then getting released. Resonates with me. My own son, Ben Ford, got scouted at 6 or 7 years old, went to Aston Villa, Coventry, Rushden and Diamonds, Kettering, and then finally MK Dons from the age of 6 to 15. So all through that period, missed out on social football, missed out on competitive football, because of course if you're in an academy you're not allowed to play for your local team, and then got released, as 98% of children in academies do get released. And of course the parents get, like I myself and my wife got very, very excited when my own son was signed by a Premier League club. But actually, is that the right thing for young football players? Is that the right thing? Are they better off being in social football, in local football? Are they better off playing competitive football against other competitive teams? Especially if you realise that actually only 2% of the boys are going to get retained. 98% of the boys are going to get retained. So if you're an academy with 200 boys, 196 of those are going to get released.
Well, two things. One, I've just put 2 and 2 together, so that's the first thing. So obviously, I now know that individual, and to listen to your comments is brilliant, because I also, in fact, you must listen to a previous podcast we just did with Dr. Chris Platts, who is really looking into the well-being of players, but also the discussion around parents and expectations. And you know what, Ian, actually it's tighter figures than you mentioned. It's 0.5%.
Oh, is it?
It is, yeah, it's now 0.5%. And so a club could have like 700 players odd, you know, and obviously if 1 or 2 make it even. So I'm like you, I worked in it. I was the academy coach. I was on recruitment as well. I spoke up in exactly the same way you did, and I was pushed out of the game. So and I didn't get a job since, and I was only saying what you're saying right now as a parent. We're right on the same page, but of course, unfortunately, they didn't like that. And for me, I think the only thing we know, and I always say this, the only thing we know about academy football or the development of players generally, right? The only thing we know is we don't know. Because if we knew, so if that was a factory, what factory would survive chucking out 99.5% of its products? Wouldn't happen, would it? No. So, and why does non-league players, every year, hundreds are playing in the Football League that played in non-league? So if we were so certain about all of what we did and our qualifications and our coaching and our syllabus and the EPPP, and if we were so certain, why is so many of those products being cast aside? it really needs kind of looking at, and it's great to hear someone like yourself on that topic.
It's because it's a production factory, right? It's a numbers game. So all of these academies invest all of this money, scouting all of these youth players and investing all the time to try and develop them, in the hope that one of them becomes the next Steven Gerrard or the next Gary Lineker or whoever it is that generates significant reward for passing that player on. And it's not right. It's not right. Somebody has to intervene. We at this club, obviously we had a couple of really successful seasons when we went to Wembley in the FA Vase final, which generated some much needed funds for the club. Rather than investing that in the player budget, we could have thrown all of that money at player budget and chased promotion. But rather than do that, we wanted to invest that in the ground, in the infrastructure, in the facilities. And if you look around you now, you can see we've got a new pitch side perimeter fence, we've got new dugouts, we've got new safety fences behind the goals.
Lovely big modern new goals as well.
And a new stand at the home end, and we've just finished building our brand new AGP AstroTurf pitch over the back there.
Brilliant.
Which was a £1.4 million investment to get the infrastructure right for the club, so that the 540 youth players that are here at the club have got great facilities to help them grow and develop and stay in the game at this football club when they reach their older years, rather than throwing money at player budgets and trying to attract players that are dropping down the divisions from step 2, step 3, step 4, just coming here to take the money and leave.
Yeah, and I always think as well about the integrity of the game. You know, like I've seen clubs that throw money at player budgets, but they don't see it as a full season, so they've not done it like a business to balance it. They're chasing this quick win. When it doesn't work, they pull the budget, all the players walk away and leave the club with playing youth teams, and then you get these unrealistic results and things. So it's great to hear such a club with integrity, good knowledge, obviously someone experienced like you know the game, you know, you've been in the pro game, you've been around academies as well, so it's great to see someone with that kind of balanced view on the long-term sustainability. It's terrific here.
And if you look at our board of Newport Pagnell Town Football Club, Jeff Cardno, the chairman, Robin, Jules, John, Mick and Stephen, the others, have been very, very clear that that's not the way they want to operate the football club. Once they agree a budget at the start of the year, that is the budget for the season. Even though there's been times, particularly over the last couple of seasons, when we've not been doing particularly well, it's not looked likely we can gain promotion, we've maybe been out of 1 or 2 cup conversations, and in those board meetings, and I've sat in those board meetings, there have been conversations about the season's not panning out how we would like it to pan out. Should we look at the player budget? And the answer has always been a resounding no. We've made a commitment at the start of the season. The player budget is a player budget, and we stay loyal to that and see it through to the end of the season.
That is absolutely brilliant, absolutely fantastic, Ian. I love that. So look, today's game, let's wrap it up now on today's game. It is the FA Vase. There is a massive carrot at the end of it, but I suppose you've got to get from one game to the to the next, and you're up against some tough opposition. I've seen them earlier this season. Of course, they are a good side. You're going to have your work cut out today. There's no doubt. But I guess just hoping for an exciting game. Ride your luck, and if you can get through, great, right?
Well, listen, MK Irish are a fantastic side. They've got a great management team, a great board, and some lovely, lovely lads that play down at MK Irish. We know them well. Some of them have been here previously. All we can hope for is a good, entertaining game. Everybody enjoys themselves and everybody goes home safe.
Brilliant. Ian, I've absolutely loved talking to you. I think I could talk to you all night, to be honest, but that's me waffling. But thank you very much, and wishing you well for the game.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you. We didn't talk about...
Right, well, I've bumped into this guy that I was talking to earlier. He's called Ian, and he's not moved from my side because we accidentally pressed stop, and we want to make sure that we chalk things off here, because overall, holistically, this club, we've spoken a lot about the youth, but there's some stories to tell around the women's football as well. In fact, I saw, actually, as I was driving in, there was a game on. I was looking for somewhere to sort of go and have a little look at that game, to be fair. So, Ian, how is your women's football developed, and what's the kind of structure there, and how are you bringing in that on alongside the men's senior team here?
Well, listen, the women's team here, the women's first team, have just actually made history for the club, having made it through to the first round proper of the FA Cup, which is the first time a team at men's or women's football have done that here at the football club since 1963. So in the 61 years history of the club, we're very honoured and very proud of our women that have made it through to that stage. But you've got to go back 3 seasons when I think 3 seasons we had, I think, 1 or 2 girls teams in the youth section, bearing in mind, of course, this day and age, girls and boys can play in the same team, or you can have dedicated boys teams or dedicated girls teams. So we had a couple of girls teams. The women's team had kind of petered out from the end of the previous season. The manager had resigned, some of the players had left, and I remember now being in a board meeting, and we'd actually missed the deadline for registering a women's team for the following season, so this would be 2022, and the committee said, well, that's it then, we won't be having a women's team next season. Bearing in mind this was the season when the England team had just won the Euros. My wife and I, Jules, who also sits on the board, were absolutely shocked and horrified at the thought of, we're Newport Pagnell Town, we're the second biggest club in the Milton Keynes area behind the MK Dons. The England team have just won the Euros. Leah Williamson, being the captain of the England teams, comes from Newport, lives in Newport, went to Oostdale School in Newport, and we're not going to have a women's team, which just absolutely horrified us. The rest of the board said, well, we get your passion, but we haven't got anybody to run it. So we said, we'll run it. So you can imagine then the rest of that week was frantic. This was a Monday night board meeting.
Yeah.
We rang the FA and said, look, we've missed the deadline, but we want to support the growth of women's football. We want to enter a team. What can you do to help us? They made an exception for us and said, look, if you can register 11 players by Thursday, we'll make an exception and allow you to enter the Thames Valley League Division 3. So my wife and I then spent the rest of that week in the evening ringing everybody we knew that could play football, had played football previously with the club, pulling together a squad. Made it by the Thursday, got 11 names registered, spoke to the FA, got the team registered, and our first game was that Sunday away to Aylesbury. So you can imagine there's my wife and I stood in the car park at Aylesbury with a box full of kit, having never met any of these players before, and every time a car rolls into the car park, we're stopping them to go, wind your window down, are you a Newport player? Oh, sorry, you're not. Sorry for asking. Oh, you are. Here's a kit. Could you go to the changing room and put that on, please? So that happened. And then, of course, I then only had, working as a coach then, I only had 30 minutes with them warm up before the game to understand what technical skills each had, what positions they should play in, who should be my skipper for the day. So you can imagine, can't you, at the end of that warm up session when I'm saying to people, right, you're playing at left back for me today, Kit. Yeah. And she's like, I've never played at left back in my life. I'm like, I know, but this is how we're going to start. Yeah. You're my captain today, Rachel. I've never captained a team in my life. Yeah. No, but from what I've seen in the 30-minute warm up, it's you. Yeah. So here's the armband. And I tell you, on that day, I have never been so proud as a football team in all of my years of coaching. We were never played together before. Some of the girls had never met before. They'd certainly never met me before. Yeah. 2-1 up with 10 minutes to go, and the girls were absolutely dead on their feet, asking me to substitute them off. I had no substitutes. Within 1 minute of the game, one of our players got injured, so we went from 11 down to 10. Later in the game, one of the girls got cramp, so we went from 10 down to 9, and we're 2-1 up, and we're honestly, we're hanging on by our fingernails. Unfortunately, the girls couldn't quite hang on. Aylesbury got an equaliser, and the game finished 2-2, but came off that pitch. I had never been so proud of a bunch of players in all of my life. That then bought us a bit of time then to advertise for a manager and a coach. We brought in a really good manager, really good coach. That manager was experienced in women's football, brought in some more players, strengthened the squad. They then went on to win the league that season, got promoted up a level. The FA recognised all the effort and time that we'd put into the growth of the women's game, and actually invited us to jump up from step 7 to step 5, which we did so. On the back of that, we attracted more girls to our youth section, and we've now almost got, just 3 years on, a girls team at every age group through the youth sections. We also applied for some funding to try and help us develop the ground, and on the back of the growth of the girls and women's football at the club, got significant funding from the Future Lionesses Fund, which helped us build the 1.4 million AGP that you can see over the back of you, the AstroTurf pitch, which is why it's now named the Leah Williamson pitch. And Leah came down herself, and there was an opening ceremony, television cameras down here, Leah cutting the ribbon, and so we've now got this fantastic facility off the back of the Lionesses' success, off the back of the growth of girls and women's football.
Isn't that what a fantastic story? And you know what? Last week I was just sat in the train station, Ian, coming back from a game actually, and on the way to a game, and I think Arsenal were playing that day, Arsenal's women, and it was actually in Bletchley. And what struck me was, like, parents, mums, dads, some dads with daughters, but loads of, like, the girls actually going to watch the game. And as I sat there, obviously I didn't speak to anyone, but it really kind of warmed me, to think. You talk about Leah Williamson and those Lionesses. They've just brought all of these young people into the game that they've loved. It's obviously very acceptable, and they're loving it and enjoying it. And I can see all of them with their. I mean, I'm not an Arsenal fan, but it just warmed me to see all these people try, because historically I'd never seen that. It was only, I don't know, groups of young lads actually going the other way. Dare I say it? Because the team near here were travelling the other way north actually for a game, and it was all young lads, 9:30, beers opening and what have you, and obviously it's a different crowd and a different dynamic, but it's great to see, and what a great story. And I liken it to when we had open trial days, and you sort of get a group of players that you've never seen before, you don't know any of them, and I always remember one day I said, right, if you're a defender, stand there, a midfielder stand there, and an attacker stand there, because I thought at least if I can group them up I can start to work out what I've got. And half of them stood in midfield, a few more stood in attack, and one player stood in defence, and I thought, right, I've got a problem here.
I know, but what we've got to do, we then had to make sure, of course, that we took advantage of the excitement in women's football, the attraction of the youth to the club, and make sure that then there was still a genuine link for the youth players through to adult football. So I'm delighted to say that this season we've also introduced a development team for the women. So we've now got 2 adult teams at women's football, a development team that links through the girls that are coming through 15, 16, 18 into the development team and create a genuine opportunity.
How have you done that in how many years? 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
I mean, that is quite remarkable to do all of that and actually have a genuine, legitimate pathway. So there's no jump from what's the oldest youth? So 16s or 16s. So then there's now an opportunity to play adults from 16 to then introduce you to adult football to then get towards the first team, hopefully.
And some of the under-16s are playing for the development team. So and some of the development team players are on the bench for the first team. So, yeah, I mean, it's been through volunteers. We've got some fantastic volunteers at this club. We brought on board a couple of years ago a gentleman by the name of James Badham as head of women's football, because to achieve that amount of growth and development in a short period of time, it needs to have some ownership, right? It needs to have someone focused on it. It can't be a bit part job for somebody. It's got to be someone's full-time focus. And James Badham had experience previously from girls and women's football, so was able to lean on all of his experience and help us pull that together as a club. Yeah,
and I think it's a wise thing. I mean, I've put together football kind of development programs and pathway kind of DNA programs before for clubs, and I think you do need an overview. You need, like, from the board as well, and everyone kind of rubber stamps, this is what we agreed to, this is how we're going to do things. I think part of that as well is, and I'm sure the person you got in charge there is defining what success looks like in each of those teams. I think that's really important, because as we look today, obviously the outcome is the result. But if you're in a development side, and you know this because I can hear from you, you're a proper football person, you get it. And that is when you go back then through the size, development and below, kind of winning is great, by the way, because it is part of the reality of sport and everyone wants to win. But you will sacrifice sometimes, i.e. playing players, making sure everybody plays. You might try people in different positions. You might take more risks. And sometimes parents struggle to get their head around that because they think, oh, you're just being politically correct and winning's not important. No, it is important, but development is the number one important thing. And actually enjoying it, which is what keeps those young people coming back, right?
100% agree with you. And to help deliver all of that, we've been really lucky at the club to have a really, really fantastic head of youth, a guy called Phil Keach, supported by a really strong football operations officer, Jules Ford. Between those two, they've been very, very strong on that particular point. And of course, we've got the advantage this day and age that you play non-competitive football up to under 11s, under 12s, right? So in those younger age groups, there's absolutely every opportunity for those coaches to give equal pitch time to all the players, to allow those players to develop. The challenge at the younger age groups is exactly as you just called it. It's the parents. The parents have an expectation of their children playing in a winning team, their children playing with stronger children, and often we've had comments historically around, why is little Johnny or little Susie getting so much pitch time? They're not as strong as some of the other players on the pitch. Well, it's because they're not in competitive football, and we're trying to give them an opportunity to grow and develop.
And players develop at different rates.
Players develop at different rates. You get growth spurts at different age groups, and players that perhaps weren't, the strongest or brightest, the strongest or most talented at under 5, 6, 7 now are playing semi-professional football. The players that were strong at under 5, 6, 7, the growth and development of the other players have overtaken them, and they're now playing football at a more senior level. You have to create opportunity, and that's what Phil Keach, as our head of youth, has been really, really strong at over the last 10 years. So. Yeah.
Well, Ian, this time I think we are going to go and get a cup of tea. Thank you for updating me on the women's side of the game, because it's a great story. I'm actually blown away, to be honest. I can't believe you've done all that in 3 years. So congratulations to you. And right, let's look forward to this game. Hopefully it's a really good game. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks again. Enjoy the day.
Hi there. Right, it's at the end of the game here, and we've got the two managers here after a thrilling game. Gents, mind you, you've got your kids here, I think, who are very happy as well. But if you could put that into some sort of summary, obviously, when your guy got sent off, perhaps to me looked a bit harsh, but referees how to interpret things. But what was your thoughts on it, and how do you feel now? What is after a great win on penalties?
Do you know what? We grew into the game. I felt like we didn't do enough in possession first half. Obviously, we started the second half pretty well. The sending off, he's give the referee a decision to make. So, I'm not happy with it. But, as I said, he's given the referee a decision to make. And I thought after the sending off, I thought we were the best side. I thought obviously we didn't create a lot of chances, but neither did they. And I thought we deserved the luck of the penalties, because we worked so hard when we went down to 10 men. And I think I'm really proud of the team and the effort they gave. And we gave something back to the fans today, which I think was pretty important after a sort of indifferent spell of form for the first team over the last few weeks. So,
yeah, really pleased. And I thought first of all, the first half, of course, you expect Shreves to get in behind a few times, I think, but for some better crossing and finishing. So they looked quite dangerous, but the end product wasn't there. You get to the second half, they did start to get a foothold. They got the foot on the ball a little bit. That led to then the sending off. But there was 3. I think I overheard you left back. Someone gave man the match, which was great, no problem. But for me, watching, one, your keeper pulls off an absolute worldie at 1v1. And I know he saved one at the end. But, what do you think, Cam? I think that save is as good as a goal. And it's right up there and alongside your 2 centre-backs. I thought your 5 and 6 were absolutely terrific.
Do you know what? Yeah, Marcus, excellent save. But I think with him, we know he can do that. Again, we've not seen much of him, but he's always been there or thereabouts, making them one-on-one saves, making himself big. And to be honest, when you're one-on-one, you obviously always fancy a striker, and it was obviously between him and JJ Meadows. We've seen JJ come out on top so many times within those situations, but Marcus was the catalyst for that. Obviously, we wouldn't have been 0-0 without him. So he was absolutely excellent. I thought their danger from George Shreves was very intense, but I really think Charlie, number 11, nullified it. And actually, they created a lot of half chances. Obviously, they hit the bar, but yeah, I was quite comfortable. Quite nervous, but comfortable.
Yeah, and even though, they did have, I've made note of, I say a few chances, but they were sort of half-hearted. Players throwing themselves in front of it. They weren't like a real sort of cut and dry one, I don't think. In actual fact, if you recall in the first half, for all the kind of like Shreves getting in behind and crossing, it was yourselves actually where you got through and he just put that one wide. We were just waiting for it to roll into the box, wasn't it, in the first half?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, chances win matches. Had that been 1-0, the whole game plan goes differently for them and for us. However, look, he's put it just past the post, but we don't sulk on it. It was a good chance to have. Probably a bit of a half chance with the ball dropping in between the striker and the keeper. But look, they've worked hard today. It's been a horrific week for us and for the club, to be honest. A lot of uncertainty, but I hope they've done the supporters proud because they deserve nothing less today than going through to the next round. Great,
and Cam, I think it's great, obviously, to mention the fans, which is superb. And Aaron, what about the penalties, by the way? I mean, I've never scored one in practice, let alone like under pressure like that. They were all terrific, weren't they, the penalties?
Yeah, I thought it was going to go on all night. I was really confident with our first five, and they took them really well. And we were just waiting for that one moment from the goalkeeper, which you sort of expect. You hope it's going to go your way, and today it did. And we're through to the next round. Look forward to seeing who we get, and who knows, hey?
Great stuff. Well, chaps, I think you've got some very excited kids knocking about, and everyone's got a smile on their face, so well done for doing that for everybody. Time for a well-earned pint. No, I think that might be time to hit the bar. Well done, chaps. Good on you.
Coming down as well. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.